What's up, buds? Andy with Album Hunters here. It is the end of the month. We're looking forward to February and all of the amazing things to come, especially, in my humble opinion, the new In Flames album, Foregone. But in the meantime, let's go back. Let's take a look at all of the great albums that got released in January. We'll rank them up, and I will buy the CD that I choose as my favorite album of the month. In the description of this video, I'll also have all of the links to the band's Bandcamp pages and any websites or social media that they might have. The important thing of this channel is to promote the small artists who need the support for their talent. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and leave a comment. And most importantly, support the artists that you love. Let's get into the video. So, starting at week number 1, gosh, it feels like forever ago, we have Mechina's Cenotaph. Now, Mechina, if you guys don't already know, it's essentially like Starset, so space rock, but with more djent, like Meshuggah, and a lot of melodies, a lot of harmonization, especially between the male and female clean vocalists. Overall, it's a very soundtrack-esque album in a good way, of course. I think that of all of the albums that I've reviewed from this month, this is certainly on that more futuristic hard rock, more accessible side of metal. I showed this to my mom and she liked it, which is pretty interesting. It's certainly on the weaker side, not because of its own merits, but just because we had such a stacked list of reinventive classic albums. This was really the month for that, I can already tell. And with that, I'm going to put it at the top of C tier. Going into my next pick from the first week in January, my number 1 from that week is Hand of Doom with their debut, Stray from the Path. These fellas, they combined elements of Doom, especially in some of their intro tracks, and also they have the early death metal / late thrash metal sound. That just sold it for me. It's a really fun record. It's only 7 tracks and it's like 41 minutes, which is a great length for a record in my opinion. And so I think for all of those reasons, I'm really going to put this at top of A. I would say number 2 easily, and maybe even number 1. The next week we had a couple Doom records. So starting out with Ahab's The Coral Tombs. These guys are on the very melodic soundtrack end of the spectrum again. And so I would say that if it's more of a concept-based kind of style, if you like that more, then you would probably rank it higher than I would. Personally, it just didn't suit me, and I would say it's just more of a droning background study session kind of music. If you want to get into a full review, please check out my week 2 video. I'm just going to give it like just under the Mechina Cenotaph rating, so I'm going to put that at a C again. Album of the week from week 2 was Lord of the Void's Consuming the Trails of Light. Now, I would say that Consuming the Trails of Light has a lot of really high moments, just like Hand of Doom, but I would say there's just a couple of weaker moments. I'd say track 1 and 3 are not skippable, but they're not as memorable. And so the Lord of the Void is more of a Doom record. It's very well done. These guys from Mexico just absolutely rocked it. Right now I'm just going to put it just under Hand of Doom at A tier. There we go. All right, week 3, we have Imperium Dekadenz, Into Sorrow Evermore. Now this album, if you guys couldn't already tell from my last video, I wasn't a huge fan of it. I know people were really raving about it from like Forge Master Metal Reviews, Alloy Metal Media, check out his channel. He does a lot of good stuff. It feels like that this album doesn't deliver in the same way that other melodic black metal albums did this month, or just generally. I am biased heavily towards the sound of Buddha, where it is much more drawn out. It is a 10 or 12 minute track, but there's so many fun and low dips in the interludes and the melodic pacing that it really satisfies that hunger for me for the longer album. And so I just felt not as satisfied with that, and also it just was a little bit too samey, especially after like halfway through. And so if this was only an EP, or if they cut off the last 2 or 3 tracks, I would actually rate this at a 3.5 to 4 arrowheads out of 5. But in this case, I left it at a 3. In the context of the entire month, I'm putting it at a D. Okay, now we have our first S tier with Tribunal's The Weight of Remembrance. These guys absolutely knocked it out of the park. I think if it weren't for the production of Markov Soroka, it would not be the album that it is, but it is grandiose in every sense of the word. It has so much atmosphere, and the wall of sound is so well procured with everything from raindrops to cello to organ to symphonic elements all over the place. And the interplay between the two vocalists, both the female low altos that are very eerie and iridescent, with the harsh vocalist, with the production that reminds me a lot of like early to mid 90s, even some melodic death metal, not in terms of the theme or the pace of the music, but just in the production. Overall, this is a fantastic album. I gave it 4.5 arrowheads out of 5, and so I feel very comfortable putting it at S tier at this point. I really enjoyed this album. It had a lot of fun, dynamic moments, just as Hand of Doom did, and also, again, it was like 40 minutes for 8 tracks, and it was all thought out very well. There was different song lengths, different song structures. Sometimes they went straight into the chorus, sometimes they held back with a nice interlude / intro into the song itself. There was very catchy moments throughout this album, whether it was clean vocals or harsh vocals. The imperfections throughout just really solidified this each time I listened to it again. And overall, I'm actually going to rate this at a B, which again is not a bad rating in the context of this month, just because there's so many good albums. It's just that in terms of memorability, I would give Lord of the Void's slightly higher rating, as with Hand of Doom. Last week, we had this incredible EP from Primal Code. These guys absolutely rocked. Why? Because they took early death metal and they added the theme of animalism, of primal nature that is embedded within our brains or our psyches, whatever, and just letting loose. The sampling on this album, the amount of detail that was put into the drum production especially was just great. The vocals remind me of Faceless Burial, but a little bit more colorful, even with the monotone. I just don't have any complaints about this record at all. As with Hand of Doom, it's just very hard to choose between them, so I'm just going to stuff it right between Lord of the Void and Hand of Doom at A. And then our wild card for this month is going to be Inherit the Void's Impending Fall of the Stars. Now, these guys are melodic black metal, and it's certainly better than Imperium Dekadenz in my opinion. It has a lot more high moments and variation throughout this album. Tracks 1 through 3 were sort of a slow start in my opinion, which I would say puts it a little bit below Jaggu, but still a little bit above Mechina. And so I'm going to put this at a lower B tier and go with that. All right, so we've put everything preliminarily into place. Now we have to fine tune it a little bit. I'm going to go with the Forge Master code, which is there has to be only one S tier, 2 A tiers, and everything else can fall into place as it can. So this is a difficult decision. I really liked Lord of the Void's album. I listened to it several times already, and it keeps getting better with each time I listen. It has a little bit more high moments, especially with the clean vocals starting on track number 4. But then again, Primal Code, it doesn't have any low moments, but Lord of the Void does. Ooh, this is hard. I would say, for the sake of the channel, I'm going to give Lord of the Void the edge, simply because it is a full-length release. It's 40 minutes instead of 15 minutes. But at the end of this year, I should probably do an EP tier list. And so I'll give Primal Code its due in a future video, future episodes, etc., etc. But here you have it. Here's our top 3. So Tribunal is S tier. Hand of Doom and Lord of the Void are A tier. And then Primal Code is at the top of B. So that distributes it based on my album of the weeks at the top and everything afterwards. Alright guys, I obviously promised you that I would buy the CD that was the album of the month, the CD Hunt of the Month winner, and here we are. I'm going to give these guys $12 US and add that to my cart. And here we go. Check it out. Now, these guys, obviously, they have a little bit of shipping, a little bit of tax. It's a little bit much for a CD. I could just go to a record shop, but honestly, I don't mind. I live far away from the nearest big record shop, and so this is a small price to pay for a monumental debut for a band. Boom! Check it out, guys. So I just ordered it. Looks like it will come in later this month, and I'm really excited for it. I will show you guys an unpacking of this album, so to speak, once it gets here. It is a great record. I can't say enough about it, and so there we are. This has been such a wonderful experience to share these videos, these albums, these artists with you. Doing all of this video editing and camera angles and just making things fine-tuned with each new video has been such a great experience. And so if you guys enjoy this content, if you like the mission of this channel to promote small artists, thank you for that support. I also want to thank the bands too, whom I reached out to and responded back to me. Several of them featured on this list and really care about not only creating good music, but also promoting channels like mine that want to promote their content and other bands too. And so for all of that and more, thank you. With that, guys, I'll see you next week. Always like, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, leave a comment, and always support the artists that you love and care about. And with that, peace out, guys.